I was thinking about this the other day when I've been looking at Twitter for the past couple of days. Whenever I say anything to the bone, get a little too close, strike a nerve, as Dennis Condrey used to say, with these all petite wrestling fans, the cosplay wrestling fans, the silly wrestling crowd. And they're all over Twitter, and they're all offendable. They're all just offendable. And it reminds me, nothing has changed, Brian, since the 1980s with wrestling fans. When it comes down to it, even though everything has changed, nothing has changed. This is just like my Twitter right now is just like when I would go into the TBS studios on Techwood Drive in Atlanta on a Saturday morning, and old Charlie McGowan, who worked in the office in Georgia for years, and he and Scrappy refereed, Charlie brought the ring, and he would bring to me a box of mail from fans. I was the only heel that got any fan mail whatsoever. Everybody else would get a couple of letters, but I got boxes full. But it wasn't fan mail. It was hate mail. And I would say 80% of them, and the people who got the Midnight Express scrapbook, those lucky individuals, have seen a bunch of this reprinted. So you know it's legitimate. The one girl even sent me and I picked this just for you, and stuck a booger on the paper and drew a circle around it and mailed it to me.
That's commitment.
But I would, at 80% was letters written in pink and purple ink and sometimes even crayon and the frilly markers from teenage girls who were so offended by what I had said or done to or about the Rock and Roll Express that this was an actual quote. "I can't wait until I turn 18 so I can find you and kill you," said little Chrissy Mae Adkins from Columbus, Georgia, age 13. Others would use the most profane language. You suck donkey dicks, you fuckity McFuck, said little 12-year-old Penelope Ford of, Dimwit, Virginia.
Penelope Ford?
Well, whoever. I'm making up names. Is that somebody's name?
Yeah, that's a female wrestler from AEW. She used to be Joey Janela's girlfriend.
Oh, good Lord. All right. Well, okay. Well, maybe that was, I don't know. I'm just saying, the point is, these young girls hated me, wanted to kill me, used language that their parents would never let them out of the house in public until they turned 18 again to me, wished death upon me because of the things that I had said on television about the Rock and Roll Express, none of which I really meant because we were working. But now, those same fans, well, not those same fans, because some of those same fans are fucking now not 14-year-old girls, but fucking almost 50-year-old girls. But the wrestling fans, the ones that are so smart, if you say something about Kenny Olivier or the Young Fucks or all these other little darlings, you get the same reaction. But these are grown people. Or at least they have reached the age of maturity that most people in most countries consider legal. They're not even little teenage kids. They're not even writing in crayon. They have smartphones and they're tweeting me on Twitter. But they're still as basically, and there's another thing. Somebody else on Twitter said, well, Cornette just liked it when back in the old days when all the fans were redneck imbeciles and they believed all this shit was real. And now we're all smart and we're more intelligent and we can't be fooled like that. Let me ask you a question, Brian, and you're in the middle generation, but you're not as old as me, but you're older than some of these people.
Some.
But what is the definition of smart and stupid here? When I was a fan, we were buying tickets and paying to see and interested in and watching on television a sport that was presented, whether you like it or not, it was presented seriously as a technical sport where people were yelling and screaming at each other because they hated each other, and they were being matched against each other because they had something to prove or something to win or something to gain, and they beat the literal fucking snot out of each other. Now, there may have been something going on, and we knew that there was something going on, but we didn't know exactly what, etc. But we did know that we were watching and paying to see people who had interesting personalities and some physical charisma yell and scream at each other, get mad at each other, and want to beat each other up over money or possessions or personal issues, and then have a fight and beat the snot out of each other. And some of it at the lower levels was pretty boring, and some of it didn't look too good, but everybody was being serious about it. And at the better level, the more professional level, the main event level, the money drawing level, these guys were good enough to suspend your disbelief, to sweep you up in the emotion in the arena of all the other people that were buying into this shit too, and get you yelling and screaming because these guys are beating the fucking snot out of each other. That was wrestling. Now the fans paid to see that back then. The modern fans think that they were so stupid. They were like the local yokel that runs the Ferris wheel at the county fair. But meanwhile, these current modern MIT graduates with degrees from major universities that are so learned and intelligent and stick their pinky out when they drink their fucking tea, they're so brilliant that they are paying more money than we ever did to buy tickets or pay-per-views or subscribe to whatever the fuck to see a bunch of people who admit that they are pulling your leg and putting you on and don't really mean a bit of it, engage in fucking play fighting, imitating video games, wrestling the Invisible Man, throwing people around with their teeny peenies, and in generally fucking sticking their thumbs in their ass, sometimes literally, and fucking thumbing their noses at you because it's a fucking shit show and it's a goddamn clown show and it's a bad Saturday Night Live sketch. And you know going in, you indie cosplay wrestling fans who spend money on this, that you're going to see that shit and you still pay and you like it. So which generation of fans, Brian, do you think are the fucking brain surgeons around here?
Well, this brings up an interesting question. I've heard Jerry Jarrett say in the past that it's his belief that the fans in his territory mostly knew it was a work. So then it becomes, what is kayfabe? Is kayfabe the fans believing, or is kayfabe the wrestlers going out of their way to make sure that you have a reason to believe in them? Presenting themselves and the product in a way that, even if you think it's a work, even if you know for sure it's a work, you can lose yourself in it. That, because people say they're like,
yes,
people forget, people are different now, Jim. Everyone knows it's fake. Look, there have been exposés about wrestling going back to the beginning of time. I've always been of the belief that the majority of people knew it was a work.
And I will agree with you on that. Not only the majority of the population because of the exposés, but down deep in some level, most of the people in the building, not all, and we know this to be a fact also, but more than 50% of the people in the building knew there was something going on somehow, but they had no idea what, to what extent, how it was perpetrated, who did it, to what ends, or for what reason. Would you say that is correct?
Yeah. And I'd say that was the fun of it, was going there and seeing what was going to happen and losing yourself in it.
And the top guys proved me wrong. Right? And the wrestlers would not admit it and the promoters would not admit it because obviously that was part of the point. There is no reason, and this is what gets back to what I've said before, technically, that I'm the same as everybody else. We're all wrestling fans, so we all want to do something in it that we like or see something that we like or whatever. But technically, once that everybody had it beaten over their heads and slapped into them that this is all a work, there's really no reason to do this. There is no reason for professional wrestling to happen otherwise than if you are trying to convince people who are skeptical. If you're playing it straight and you're trying to present a contest That's the reason for professional wrestling. It doesn't make sense any other way, to be honest.
Yeah, you don't need guys winking at the camera.
But anyway, I got mad because the wrestling fans of yesteryear were the ones who would defend the business. Were the ones, they would get in fights if somebody said, well, it's goofy and it's silly and it's fake and it's bullshit. There would be fights started. The wrestling fans of today speak worse of wrestling in their own way than the people who hated it and thought it was a bunch of bullshit back then, because they're the ones who are saying, well, it's supposed to be silly and fake and funny and entertaining and nobody should take it seriously. That's actually worse. They use worse appendages to describe the business now than the people who hated it back in the old days. Then now the people who don't really know anything about wrestling and don't like it, they just say, oh yeah, it's a big business on TV. They're kind of halfway putting it over. And the wrestling fans are shitting on it. That's supposed to be fucking stupid with the, you know, I don't know that the fans are not part of the problem here. I've said it's the wrestlers that make the fans think that it's okay to think this. The cosplay wrestlers make the fans think that it's okay to view the business this way and it's acceptable. So technically it's their fault, but now these fucking fans, and I'm not talking about all the members of the cult of Cornette out there that's listening to me. I'm talking about these fucking morons that aren't listening, or they'd be smarter than they are, and that, you know, think that this goddamn thing should be a Saturday Night Live sketch. I just don't, and then they fit right in with they're always offended. Have you seen the girl, the twat on Twitter, the Twitter twat, campaigning to have me boycotted and banned from polite society here this past week? She's in and out every once in a while.
I have not. I'm unaware of this.
Okay, well, this goes back to, and they're, like I said, they're all so easy. Remember I did the Andy Kaufman thing, you know, you ought to be back in the kitchen rattling the pots and pans around. Yeah. No, to the TMZ wannabe guy, right? And he was, oh, I can't believe he said this. And it was Andy Kaufman. I figured the fucking Hollywood guy would get it, right? So anyway, remember a couple of years ago, we reviewed a match from one of the UK promotions, and I watched it on YouTube or wherever it was. The first thing I saw was the ring announcer in the ring. And this guy had these big floppy tennis shoes on. I'm not sure they were even tied, and some baggy sweatpants and some fucking floppy, like big shirt that's too big for him, like maybe the rappers wear. And he's got a baseball, he's bald headed, shaved bald, even though he's a young man, got a baseball cap turned backwards. And, you know, and he looks like, you know, a homeless bum, right? And I mentioned in the review, I said, well, the first thing I see is the fucking ring announcer. And he's dressed like a fucking bum that just hopped off a fucking train, or, you know, they got from a homeless shelter. I said, they're dressing that way for a show, they ought to have taken him out and hung him in the parking lot. And then I continued on with the review of the match. And then I found out later on the ring announcer was also the promoter of the show.
That's right. That's right.
And somebody said, what's his gimmick? He's a stand-up comic. Oh, so he's a stand-up comic from the homeless shelter and tells all those funny stories about the soup kitchens. What the fuck? Who gives a shit, right? But this guy flipped his fucking wig, lost his shit. As he suggested that I should be taken out and hung by the neck until dead in the car park. And like to wish ill on this guy, this stupid fuck in the dressed like a bum in the ring, was my only point of this critique of this match, because I'd never say anything else about this guy ever again, right? But he took it personally, and he flipped out about it. Well, that's been a couple of years ago. Well, now there's a girl on Twitter, and I'm sorry if there's any special issues going on with her or whatever. I think she's just like a Rock and Roll Express teenage girl fan, and she's got the purple hearts and flowers and everything, and she's in love with some wrestler. I don't fucking know. But anyway, every once in a while she'll pop in with what a disgusting fucking human being I am. And a couple of days ago she pops in with, well, and you're all saying you're a misogynist and hate, you know, whatever. I said, hey, toots. I said, get back in the kitchen and cook something, right? Oh, goddamn. Oh, Jesus Christ. You just shut your pie hole, chick, and get back in the kitchen. Oh, my God. And so then she picks up on the fucking, well, he encouraged suicide. What?
Oh my God.
He's encouraging people to kill themselves. And so I tweeted and she got like all four of her friends on this too. Well, yeah, I encouraged this guy to hang himself in a parking lot. I never said anything about hanging himself. I tweeted back. I said, I never said anything about him doing himself. He could have had help. That's entirely up to the situation. Right? Because what the fuck is the matter with these fucking people? Do they exist in this world? If they're offended by this shit, can they possibly walk to the store and back without having a fucking complete mental breakdown? And it's this easy to just wind these fucking nitwits up? But yeah. Oh my God, he's promoting suicide. Ban him. Everybody fire him. Ban him from polite society. He's promoting suicide. Good Lord. It's this whole
cancel culture where they want to, anything that someone doesn't like, they want to use that to try to get someone fired or thrown off something. And, sometimes it happens to someone that you really think is a despicable human being. And sometimes you're just like, what is this? What is this? Yeah,
it's like
mob mentality.
But see, they have to take everything too far, like they're wrestling. Everything, like we've talked about in wrestling, anything works until you take it too far and do it too much. Yes, Donald Trump should be impeached and thrown out of office and straight into fucking prison because he's a goddamn criminal that has fucking put the entire world in danger. Not to mention an asshole and a fucking ignoramus and goddamn pig-faced piece of shit. Yes, impeach the president, kick him the fuck out. Get rid of him instantly. But you don't have to fucking cancel the guy that sold fucking, rotten fruit to you at the fruit stand on the corner. You don't have to get that fucking fired up about everything. You butthurt pussies. Don't knock fans from my generation. Like I said, at least we were buying tickets to see grown men beat the snot out of each other. Not a goddamn 98-pound Japanese schoolgirl playing patty cake with her invisible friend while the referee cosplays as his favorite video game character. Because then that makes you all a bunch of fucking little fucking dweebs. Good God. And once again, the ones that think they're smartest to the wrestling business, because it's all supposed to be fake, are the easiest to rile up if you insult their favorite fake wrestlers. Just because I used to do it working, and now I'm doing it shooting. The only difference in the death threats between the rock and roll and today. It's not my fault if I have principles, and it's not my fault that I was right again. Because I said about a year and a half ago, they can't be serious. Let them prove me wrong. So far, they haven't been serious. Don't fucking blame me.